Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the Falcons cutting Mykal Walker, what that means for Atlanta's linebacker room moving forward. Plus, Atlanta did sign another player in a corresponding move, so we'll break that down. Plus, the Falcons were linked to this former All-Pro offensive lineman as a potential free agent target. So all that and more coming up on today's show. But before we get to all of that, make sure you join us for our live watch party this upcoming weekend. Falcons, Bengals. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than the regular season game did a year ago. But producer Rolly and I will be live for this game. So make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss out. And tune in, because if you've never joined a watch party before, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun to take a game in that way. But let's get into the big news of the last 24 hours or so. And that was the Atlanta Falcons releasing linebacker Mykal Walker, which I don't think this comes as a huge surprise to anyone. Maybe the surprise is I didn't expect it to happen so soon. I thought he might go through all the preseason and then the Falcons decide to move on. But ultimately, Atlanta decided to cut bait after the first preseason game, which personally, I think that was more of them doing Mykal Walker a favor. If they were to release him on August 31st, well, all of the other teams might have a good idea of what their roster looks like. This way, Walker now gets more time to somewhat audition for other teams, and other teams aren't feeling like, well, our linebacker room is set. We just watched these guys over the last 6 weeks. We feel good about what we have. We don't want to switch it up at the last moment. We don't want to tinker. Now Mykal Walker gets a chance to join another team's roster midway through the preseason. So the Falcons linebacker room now has the same starters as before, right? Troy Andersen and Kaden Elliss were your starting inside linebackers. So that's not too much of a shakeup. If you want a shakeup, maybe Tay Davis now makes a push to make the 53, because unfortunately with Mykal Walker gone, you are one snap away from getting a whole new look at the inside linebacker room with some very unfamiliar faces and not a lot of experience backing up a second-year player in Troy Andersen and a more of a veteran player in Kaden Elliss. But last year, Walker had 107 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 6 pass breakups. I don't think Walker was a bad football player last year. I think Atlanta just wanted to go a different direction. And the inside linebacker position is a very vital spot of the defense. So it's not somewhere you just rotate guys in or something like that, or you hold on for an extra season. For Atlanta, they signed Kaden Elliss. They like what they have in Troy Andersen coming up the ranks, and that just kind of pushed Mykal Walker out of his starting role. But what was your one-word reaction to Walker being cut? Sound off down in the comment section below. Let me know what your one-word reaction is. My one-word reaction? It's Andersen, a.k.a. Troy Andersen, the second-year player out of Montana State, who more or less is responsible for this move because Atlanta wanted to give him a starting role, and I think he deserves that starting role. He had a lot of good moments his rookie year. He has been the talk of training camp in the preseason. He looks good in the offseason workouts and whatnot. So for Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, they felt like now is a time to make a switch from a below average-ish but like serviceable linebacker in Walker to someone who I think has game-changing abilities. Like Troy Andersen could be that Deion Jones, peak Deion Jones, pre-contract extension Deion Jones. I think he's got that type of ceiling, so I'm very excited to see what Andersen can do in 2023. Now, as for some corresponding moves and whatnot, Josh Kendall, one of the first to break the news that the 2023 USFL Defensive Player of the Year, linebacker Frank Ginda, takes Walker's place on the roster. Ginda practiced with the Falcons on Sunday. So that's a pretty interesting signing right there, former USFL Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not going to pretend to say that I watched a ton of USFL football last year, but if you were Defensive Player of the Year, you got to be doing something, right? So if you're looking for a depth piece right here, maybe he's got a chance to make the practice squad or push for one of the final roster spots. But you move on from one linebacker, it makes sense to bring on another linebacker. Let's get to some other news, though, of the day. Jesse Bates is now switching jersey numbers. He is jersey number 3. That is what he wore at Wake Forest. So not too surprised by this move. Hand up, I'm an old man when it comes to jersey numbers. I miss the days of when there was regulations and 3 for a safety. My brain's just not going to be able to compute that. I'm not a fan of the jerseys change, but then again, I'm the only guy yelling at the clouds wishing we went back to the old jersey rules. But Jesse Bates, He's wearing number 3 now. Other roster moves to report on here. The Falcons signed defensive back Blace Austin. So the defensive backs have been, unfortunately, just ravaged by injuries the last couple of days or weeks now. We had Jeff Okudah go down for the rest of the preseason. Clark Phillips was carted off after the first joint practice with Miami. The good news is that was not a serious injury, and we could see him back sooner rather than later. But let's get some background information on Blace Austin, his NFL career. 2019, he was with the Jets and appeared in 7 games, 25 tackles, 4 pass breakups. The next year in New York, 11 games, 63 tackles, and 4 pass breakups. And then 2 years ago in 2021 with the Seahawks, another 11-game stint, 10 tackles. So he's got some NFL experience. I'm not quite sure if he's necessarily a lock to make this roster. But if Atlanta's feeling a bit queasy about the bottom of their depth chart in the cornerback room after suffering 2 injuries before the first preseason game, Blace Austin feels like a pretty good addition to the roster, at least for the rest of preseason football. So a corresponding move should be coming soon, whether that is a player gets released or you can't really put anyone on IR right now, so that's not going to be a move you can make to open up a roster spot. But the Falcons, they're going to have to be making some moves to open up some spots if I counted up to 90 correctly. But let me be honest with you guys. Blace Austin was not someone I had on my bingo card getting signed by the Falcons. But let me know if you know who Blace Austin was. All-time name. No doubt about that. Yes or no. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, quick word from today's sponsor, BetUS. They've got the best deal across all sports books in the land. When you go to chatsports.com/betfalcons, they're going to hook Dirty Birds fans up with a 125% deposit bonus by just entering promo code Falcons125. Got to go to this link. Got to use that promo code. Put 100 bones in. They give you an additional 125 to play with. So now you got $225 in your account. Let's wrap up the show by talking about this Bleacher Report article that suggested the Falcons go out and sign Andrew Norwell. So Andrew Norwell is not a household name. He's had some good years in his NFL career. He was released by the Washington Commanders a few weeks or even months ago at this point, and he had an all-pro run one year in Jacksonville, or Pro Bowl run, so he's got some good NFL experience, no doubt about it. I'm in on Norwell. I mean, Matt Hennessy is kind of in that TBD status where he didn't play in the first week of the preseason, and it's sounding like he'll be back soon, but still, you know how injuries can be a bit, vague in the preseason, and the coaches are never that transparent. So if the Falcons don't feel like their rookie Matthew Bergeron is actually ready to start week 1 and Hennessy is going to miss some time, well, we know this team's success is rooted in their ability to run the ball, and that is through their offensive line. And Norwell could be a good player to at least keep on the roster as an all-time backup guard if an injury were to pop up. Hopefully Lindstrom plays every single snap this year. But Drew Dahlman or Matt Hennessy and Matthew Bergeron, those are 3 players for 2 spots that, but one's a rookie, one's been injured, one's going into his second year. Doesn't feel like a bad spot to enter another player into the mix. So if Atlanta wants to bring Norwell in and, hey, give him no guaranteed money so you can cut him if you want to at the end of training camp or preseason, I'm not going to protest that kind of signing. But you be the GM for me. Should the Falcons sign Andrew Norwell? S for sign or P for pass? Bergeron is a rookie making the move from left tackle to left guard. Something tells me it might not be the smoothest transitions in his first NFL season. So you parlay that with Matt Hennessy's injury right now, and it's not like Hennessy is some all-pro guard that just can't have the job taken away from him. Why not bring in someone who's got some more experience and has had some good years in the NFL? So I think that would be a very wise addition for Atlanta. Try and beef up this offensive line. Make sure it is sturdy because this team goes as far as the offensive line goes in my eyes. Now, good news for all of us is Rolly is back from his little week-long siesta back home, back here in the Chat Sports studio. So we got another draft coming your way. Rolly, welcome back.
You know what? It feels good to be back, and I'm so excited to be live for the Week 2 preseason game for the Falcons this upcoming Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we got a nice little draft to do.
Yeah, so today's draft is NFL coaches you want to fight with. Not fight against, but if you're in a bar fight, which coach do you want behind you? just before you throw that first haymaker. And Rolly, the 1-1.
And it's a clear 1-1, and that is Dan Campbell, just an absolute gritty guy who I'd love to have on my back in any form of life, whether it be in a fight or whether it be just going out with the fellas. Like, he's just a great guy, and that all-time quote of him getting hired with Detroit, just going to take the bite out of people's kneecaps. I love Dan Campbell.
Excellent pick. My first selection, I went with what I think would be the next best pick, but I'm not even sure about it. Robert Saleh for the New York Jets. The guy's jacked. The guy is yoked. I don't know if he's a fighter, which maybe I reached on this pick, but if you're looking for a strong dude, this is it. He keeps himself in tip-top shape.
You want to know who is a fighter? Mike Vrabel. This is a really good pick in my opinion. Vrabel he likes to tussle. I'd pay good money to watch Campbell and Vrabel go at it one time.
Yeah, I would definitely chip into that GoFundMe. My next selection, I'd love to see these two fight together with me, and that is a pair of former 49ers coordinators, Robert Saleh and then D'Amico Ryans, now the head coach with the Houston Texans. Again, I don't know if these guys are like bar fighters like Campbell and Vrabes kind of appear to be, but they definitely are in the best of shape in the NFL, so this seems like a pretty safe pick in my eyes.
My third pick, I went with Riverboat Ron Rivera. Listen, he beat cancer, and he used to be in the Army, I believe. Rivera, he's the guy that I'd like to have on my side at all times.
He would definitely call up some old Army buds to join him in the fight. My next pick, I'm going to go with Sean McDermott. I believe he wrestled in high school, and rule number 1 is don't mess with a wrestler. Never mess with a wrestler. If someone's got some effed up ears at a bar, don't mess with them either. Sean McDermott definitely is a guy who wins going low. So I think McDermott as a wrestler, if that is all true, would be a very good position.
My final pick, I went with Bill Belichick. And as some of you might know, Belichick's willing to do anything to get the job done. So I'd like to have him on my side. Plus, he's just a gritty old dude who would be willing to get low and dirty and maybe even take a bite out of someone's calf if needed to win a fight. I love that Belichick on my team. Also, he can just coach up and draw up a game plan for the other 3 guys to go win a fight. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't tend to agree with that selection there. He's ancient. Give me Mike Tomlin to round out this draft. Could have gone with Arthur Smith, could have gone with the Pander pick, but I think Mike Tomlin, you see what I'm going here. I'm going for jacked up dudes that are in great shape, and they might not look like WWE fighters, but if Mike Tomlin's behind me, he's going to coach up the other 3 as well. So let us know who you think had the better draft, type Petey, type Rolly in the comments section, for who you think had a better draft of coaches you would want on your side in a fight. We will sign off. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff, and see everyone later.